We are here on the NSESA stream here. We will be watching the game between Omaha Skutt and Grand Island Northwest from the perspective of Grand Island Northwest. The person we'll be spectating is the 11th grader Lennon Piefling. Is that how you pronounce that? Lemon Fenning. I'm so sorry. Um, his current record going into this is 9-7. His opponent will be Colin Fuelbirth. If that's not your name, I'm sorry, you're not in the room. You can't stop me. He is a senior, and his current record is 10-4. So again, the perspective we'll be watching from is Lennon's. He will be playing against Colin in the first round of Division One, right here on NSESA Twitch stream. Thank you so much for joining, and we will be getting going shortly. All right, we are live in our first game. Towards us, the cards in hand that we can see will be Lennon's, or Lemon as his username is, and across from us will be Colin. His username is Wolf. So Hearthstone is a strategy card game where you use the cards in your hand to reduce your opponent's health to 0 or win in some other alternate fashion. However, for most of these games, it will be a race to reduce your opponent's health to 0 or get enough value to just beat them down. We have a druid, which is the class of ramp and armor, versus the warrior, which is an armor class that specializes in control and producing more value than the opponents. Each hero has a hero power, as seen those little 2-mana symbols right next to their portraits here. These cards here are the cards in hand, and they will each perform a different thing. So as you can see here, Lennon has just activated a hero power, and each character has different cards and different abilities as well. So this one gives them 1 attack and 1 armor. The attack is used to damage enemy minions or harm the opponent's total health. When that total health reaches 0, again, that player will lose. So Lennon's game plan here, as we're seeing, is he's drawing more cards and just clearing off the board and waiting for pressure to be applied by Wolf. Both of these classes here are rather late game heavy, so it should be not a short match, but it will come down to who can produce more value in the later game. So what we're seeing here, Wolf has a Rush sub-theme in his deck. Rush allows minions to attack another minion immediately when they're summoned, rather than waiting a turn. So it looks like that's going to be his engine for value. He's producing Playmaker notably, which summons an additional copy of a Rush minion. And it would appear that Lemon here, is running a Beast Druid variation with a corrupt package, which will produce more value in the later game by casting larger spells to increase the value of the cards in his hand. Druid excels in getting to the late game faster by producing extra mana crystals, which are used to play the cards in hand. So at this point right now, Lennon can play more powerful cards and abilities than Wolf can, simply because he's playing Druid and can produce that value earlier in the game. So what we're seeing him doing right now is producing taunt minions. Now these minions make it impossible for your opponent to attack your total health until they clear them off. So this requires Wolf to either trade or find some way to directly kill Lennon's minions here. It looks like as warrior he's utilizing a couple of the mass damage removal spells, notably Blade Storm, which has just cleared off 3 of Lennon's minions. Lennon just played Nature Studies, which allows him to create a card and cast it from his hand at a later date. So he searched for Nourish here, which again gives him more mana, one of Druid's specialties, to attempt to further put him ahead in the race to get to the late game and outdamage Wolf before he can start controlling the board any further. Wolf has just cleared off Lennon's board to reduce the damage again going towards his face. He is at 22 health. That's almost a third of the starting total. He is now, in response, putting up a couple taunt minions as well as producing a little damage on board. An interesting thing about Druid is once they reach 10 mana crystals, which is the maximum in this game, they instead get excess mana, which instead of producing mana for them allows them to draw a card and gain advantage that way. It looks like he's still running the Beast Rush package, which allows him to just cast Guardian Animals for 8 mana and rip two 5 or less beasts from the deck. So it's producing value directly from the cards onto the battlefield. It's a great way to pull ahead of your opponent if you have the correct packages in your deck, which it would appear that Lennon does have. Another thing that Lennon's Druid cards do is they can produce extra mana. However, the cost of that tends to be overloading mana crystals. So normally at the start of each of your turn, you get all of your mana back, and you can use it to play spells, create minions, and do damage. However, when you overload a crystal, you're sacrificing next turn's mana. So these two crystals will not refresh, and he will be at 8 this turn. However, that sacrifice allows you to make more extensive plays on the turn you're playing. So it's a means of getting more value earlier than producing less mana on the next turn, assuming that you're going to have the value and the damage you need this turn. Wolf also has a Crab Rider on the field. Now, Wind Fury is an ability that allows it to attack twice instead of the traditional once. So it will hit Lennon instead of for 3 this turn for 6. Additionally, Stealth means that you cannot attack directly into that minion. So it makes it more difficult to remove things from your opponent's or from your board by your opponent. And it looks like Lennon has decided to first draw cards and then see what he can get from there and play with. He's drawn a 10 and an 8 cost spell, so very expensive things, but as Druid he can ramp up into them. Wolf currently has 9 damage on board. Again, the Crab Rider can attack twice. So with Lennon's 13 total health, the 12 health pool, and the 1 armor, he is looking very close to dead. And the Troublemaker, which will summon 2 3/3s at the end of the turn that will attack a random enemy, will kill him here. So that is the first game going to the Colin here, playing as Wolf. So the rules of the tournament. Sorry about that. So the rules of the tournament. Go back to this. They include each player needs to win with 2 of their decks, and they have a pool of 3 to play with. So Lemon here is not out of the game yet. However, the warrior list that we just saw, as it has won a match, it cannot be played in the next one. So it's a best 2 out of 3 tournament style with a winning deck moving on and not being able to be played in the next one. So if Lennon loses this game, he will be knocked out of the finals bracket here. He will need to win 2 games back to back and reverse sweep in order to continue to move on. If we take a look at his hand, he, again in traditional Druid fashion, has quite a bit of ramp to move towards the late game. Wolf, however, is not playing a late game deck. The deck he is running right now is a aggressive face hunter build. So its goal is to get under more clunky late game decks and deal damage, reducing their health total to 0 before they can really put up a fight and interact with him. So hopefully for Lemon here, Druid will be able to produce enough defense and produce enough value to weather the initial storm that Hunter's going to throw out at him and be able to win in the late game. It really is just a race and a matter of time to see which player can last longer or kill the other player before they get to that stage. And Wolf, in traditional aggressive fashion, has created the maximum number of creatures on the board. He has 7 minions there, all of which can do damage to Lennon's face next turn. So he will need to find a way to either survive this large number of creatures or he will die rather quickly with all of these. The Druid list, the control Druid list here, is continuing to ramp. On Wolf's turn 3 here, Lemon has 7 available mana crystals, so he has produced 4 mana crystals worth of value, which should pull him ahead enough to damage down and clear off this board from Wolf if the cards work out for him. It's also important to note that he will be overloaded next turn, so he will only have 6 crystals available to him, and he is at 8 health. So his health total here is something that he needs to be aware of. And unfortunately, it looks like, well, unfortunately for Lemon, very fortunate for Wolf here, it looks like this Hunter list was able to get under the guns of the Ramp Druid, and that would be the match of the best of 3 going to Wolf or Colin Fuelbirth. Again, apologies if that's incorrect, from Omaha Skutt Catholic. He will be moving on to the finals here. We will be back in a few minutes. We look forward to having you guys here for the next match. Our next match will be, we're not sure as to what our next match will be, but it will be the finals for Division 1 on this Twitch. It will be Wolf against the winner of the Wildcat stream match. If you would like to see more of Lemon, the third place will be on the Wildcats Twitch. Otherwise, we will have Wolf and the winner of this next one on our stream here in just a few. Come back when that's happening.